Hey guys, welcome to part number 2 of episode 3 here of the Tech Talk with Daniel and Peter. We're going to be continuing on working on getting our shocks dynoed here at Murphy Solutions. So make sure you guys stay tuned, leave a comment, leave a like, and don't forget to share the video around so we can get everyone seeing what it's like to run a sprint car team and do some general maintenance on it.
The shocks come up to temperature. Now if we look down here where our temperature, when we go, it's already gone beyond 90, so the test we're going to be doing will be at 100. What I would normally do is cool that shock absorber down and redo it at 90. But this is not important. So really, back here is the information that was in there, and we'll just run it up again. And because it's already 100 degrees, it'll start up, cycle itself, go from bottom dead center to top dead center, zero it, and then it'll give us a reading.
Like putting water in there.
And now it's doing the test at a speed up to 6 inches per second. And now it's asking, and we put in here what the number is. There's the part number before, 155918. It's got number 1 after, which is the first test after the zero test. I'll click on save. It'll come up and it'll give me a graph. Now if we look along the bottom here, we've got 0 through to 6 inches per second. And up the side here we've got 0 going up to 200 pound compression down to 500 pound rebound. Now if we look along the top here, we have got numerous different graphs. That's one graph. There's another one. Hang on, we'll get rid of this here a second. So we go back here, there's one graph, there's another graph that relates to a different thing, there's another graph here. As we can see, this graph before had both sides of the pistons from 0 up to maximum, back to 0, and on rebound from 0 out to maximum, back to 0. If I go into the next graph, which we use, it's easy to read. Obviously, it's only part of that first graph. It's only the compression open, rebound, side close, and then there's another graph here, which is the other side of it, and then there's. So we can use whichever graph, or we can look at whichever, but to me and what most people would use is the compression open, rebound, close deal, right? Now, if we remember, we're talking about compression open, rebound, close, and rebound, close. If we look into here, into our report, we've got along the top here CO, which relates to compression open, RC, rebound, close, CC, compression close, RO, rebound open, CA, compression average, RA, rebound average. So you say which, if we look along here, we've got different, up here we've got minus 116, and then we've got plus 9.3. So which ones, and generally industry standard would be the compression open, rebound, close. So we're using those set of numbers there. Now factory Kane in actual fact use the average numbers because they find that that's the way they build their shock absorbers. So if I'm doing factory Kane stuff, I'll be using this set of numbers here. But the shock absorber that's built at 3 inches per second for this set of numbers is not the same necessarily as that. So if you're going to get a shock absorber built, you need to know all of the information to be able to get exactly the same.
So now, Geoff, in this case, this shock absorber, we're here to test it to make sure it's exactly what it is, and we're 174 rebound, 59 compression. So how does that compare now?
Yeah, well, it's gained some compression. It's got 69 pound of compression. Yep. Now that can be because now it's got a little bit of dirt in it, maybe need cleaning. Could also, if it's done some laps, well, that could be the or it also can be that the actual ring on the bearing or the sealing ring on the piston is bedded in a lot better into the actual tube.
Okay.
So you see how it's different, and if it's obviously like we're just talking about, we've gained 10 pound in compression. Yes. We need to pull it apart and alter
have a look at that shock absorber. Yeah.
And why we have this compression open, compression close, and rebound close, rebound open, and we think there's a compression and there's a rebound. So you think, okay, there's, because of the way this is written, you've got compression up here and rebound down here on our chart. And you think, okay, that's all, but we've got a piston here that starts off at 0, and then it has to go to maximum and come back to 0. That's why there's a compression open and a compression close. And the same on the rebound. It has to come from 0 up to maximum, back to 0. So, and that's what it's doing. It's showing you both sides of the piston. So it's a matter of, and when you go to what factory cane are using, they're not using any of those 4 numbers. They're taking an average of those and giving a set of numbers that they believe is a lot more clearer for the average person to understand. But the most important thing is to make sure when you're building it, that you're building it to the set of numbers that you want it built to, and then when you're testing it to those numbers. Otherwise, you can have a completely different shock absorber than what you think you got. Now, because we're measuring and testing the shock absorber at 6 inches per second, everyone says, oh, well, why do we measure it at 3? The only reason we're measuring most of the shock absorbers outside of the left-hand rear in particular, and maybe the left-hand front, isn't 3 the middle of 6? So it's the average.
Yeah.
Now, if you went to 10, you could say, oh, well, we're going to do it at 3, we're going to do it at 5. I mean, it's again, and if we're building exactly the same shock, we need all of the numbers, even though in most cases, to make it simple, what we're going to say, you know, what number have you got at 3 inches per second on your shock absorber? So you'll be just looking at this, but to make the shock absorber right, we need to look at all of those numbers. We can build this shock absorber that's got 69 pound at 3 inches, and it's got 22 at 1 inch, we can have that at 60. So it could have 60 there and 69 there. It's a different shock absorber than that. So all of the numbers are very important, but we don't need to confuse people by trying to say you've got to have all of this. So we're looking at an average on the right front, the right rear. Okay, what's a 3 inch number? And we'll take it there. So unless it's a specially built shock, it should balance out pretty okay. With your left-hand side stuff, left-hand front's a little bit more important, and then when you get the left-hand rear, it's critical to make sure you've got the 0 number you should have, the 1 inch number, and the 3 inch number.
Perfect, Geoff. Can we just talk about, you've done this a lot for us. This is one of our shock absorbers, a right-hand front. I'm just using this for an example. Is that we went racing last year in the northwest, and we came back and you pulled our shocks apart, and what did you find?
Well, they only run about 4 times, but what happens is you've got
You want to see inside?
You've got a seal which sits inside the shock absorber here. Then on top of it, you've got the
cap
part that clamps it down, and then in between that, you've got a little thing called the scraper, which sits on top of that, which is scraping away a lot of the dirt supposedly from on here. But when this is bolted in here, as we can see, it's got 4 holes in it. Now those 4 holes, if for instance the shock absorber is up in the normal direction, is filling up with dirt all the time. And then what happens, it ends up getting past the scraper, past the inside of these 2 lips of the seal, and then it gets on top of this guide here, which lets the shaft work up and down inside of it. So we've got the shaft here. So next thing, the dirt's gone through the 4 holes, sucked in through here, gone into here. And in the case of this shock absorber, it's got a low rebound shock absorber. It's got a little vent hole in here, and the dirt just goes through here, or otherwise it'll get down through the top of that and then into the oil. So it's pretty important if you're running the car in dirty conditions that you have a look at it a bit more often.
Let's talk about, Geoff, how you find out with the pressure washing.
Yeah, well, the same thing applies there. It's been the same with seals. I remember I was involved with Carl Kinser for a while. He wouldn't go and pressure wash anything. He'd wash it all by hand, because someone gets hold of a pressure washer, all that does, it just blows the shit that's inside of here into here, past here, into the shock absorber.
That's
so
right.
My theory is, when you're washing the car, take your shock absorbers off. Make sure that you wash them down with some nice warm detergent. Make sure you clean in here. You might turn it upside down, get some brake clean or something, and you can spray it into here and wash that out, so it's not built up inside. And again,
so this is just simple maintenance, Geoff, that anybody can do.
Yeah, well, the thing is that you pay a lot of money to have the shock absorbers dynoed and make sure you've got what you think you got. And if you don't maintain them properly, it's like everything else. That's something like what I'm saying. It's, when you come home, take the shock absorber. The other thing to do when you come home and take the shock absorber off is to push the shock absorber in and out. I mean, and if it's only a twin tube shock absorber, you've got a good idea of how it should feel. So when you get the shock absorbers dynoed and you go to put them on your car, when you put the bottom end on, just operate the top end of the shock absorber and say, hey, my right front feels like this, my right rear feels like that, my left front feels like this, and my left rear. A lot of people say, oh, there's something wrong with my shock absorber, I can't pull it out. Well, some are made so you can't pull them out by hand. Because they've got a couple of 100 or 300 pound at one end, so you won't pull it out. So if you don't know that how it's supposed to feel, it's not until the car's not handling do you know there's something wrong. And lots of times you don't know what's wrong. Also, what can happen with the left rear shock absorber, if it was in a bit of a wreck, there's a little circlip groove here around the base of the piston that holds the rebound plate and spring in. If that bottoms out sometimes one time, it will break that lip off, and then there's no rebound. Now, if you are checking your shock absorber every time when you come home to wash the car, you pull them off, you wash them, clean them up, you put them back on, you move it up and down, that shock absorber would have no rebound in it at all. So it wouldn't hold the car down. But if you don't pull it off and check it, you could be saying, well, something's gone wrong with this car. Is the right rear bar worn out, or what am I doing wrong? It just rolls over all the time. Well, here's the reason. You haven't taken the shock absorber off, you haven't washed it, but more importantly, you haven't stroked it through a stroke to see if it feels like it used to feel like. And if it don't feel like, and all right, that's not the ultimate way or the best way. The best way is to put it back on a dyno. But you will get to know this is what it feels like, and as soon as it's out 10 or 20 pound, you should be able to feel that and you say, can you just dyno it again? Let's see where it's at. But if you don't check it,
you don't know.
You check your valves every time you race, or you should do, and a few other things, and you do all your fuel and settings and all that. Why not wash your shock absorbers? Why not stroke the shock absorbers and hopefully find that they are where they should be? And if they're not, or they feel like maybe not, and sometimes you may not feel exact. Get it checked, make sure it's right.
Now, Geoff, whilst we are just giving people a brief overview of what we do on the 83 team, of course, and you look after our shock packages for us, just show us this new intercom tool that you've only just got, and how intricate we are working these days in our industry.
Well, these little springs here actually go inside the piston that we just had a minute ago, which has a plate that spring goes onto, and then a little washer. And this little washer then sits on that spring, and that's going to control the rebound, and that goes down inside the piston here like so. Now, if we want more or less rebound, especially if we're looking at let's say the 1 inch stage, right? It relates to a couple of things. It relates to the leakage past this spring. It relates to a hole that can be drilled in here. But we need to know, because these springs, whether it be a 4, 5, 7, 12 or whatever, will all be different. So what we've got now to use is we can put it on a machine and we can actually test
the size
of the spring. So it's about a 15 pound spring, that one. Now we've got another one here just as a comparison. That's a 21, and if we want to go a little bit crazy, so we've got one here.
Wow, that's an 80 pound spring.
Yeah, so we let it settle down a little bit.
Yeah, okay, 65.
63 pound, right? So that's on the rebound side. Now,
on the
compression side, what we've got here is we've got a basically a ring here, which is where the seal goes. So you have basically a piston ring seal like that. You will then have a little plate on here, and that sits on here. Now, these here, you can cut little notches in them. You have different ones with different slots. Well, here's one here now that's got two reasonable slots. That will change the compression of the thing, right? But what we're looking at also, this is going to change the low speed number. But when we're looking at the actual, when it's going to have above 3 inches, we're looking at this spring here, which actually sits on top of all of this. So this little bit here. This sits here, has a plate, and then the shaft screws into here. So we need to know, so we know what our, say between our 6 inch, 3 to 6 inch compression is going to be, we need to know what spring we've got. This one's 70 pounds or 77 pounds. And we look at this one.
That's major difference.
So it's about 100 pounds. So we need, you know, and lots of times you won't have to change that, but you need to know if you're trying to customise something and trying to make it sort of not as linear, so, which means it doesn't just keep going and going and going steeply. It gets to a point and then flattens off. We need to know what we've got here. So just a little bit more, we can actually try and customise a little bit better. That's all.
That's great. It's very interesting stuff. We could talk about it for hours, Geoff, and we've only just really just touching on shock absorbers and what we do. So thanks for giving us a bit of an insight into what you do here at Murphy Solutions. Will you let us go on the other side of the shop and have a look around there?
Yeah, no.
Well, come on, then you're going to show us.
No. I'm just putting this away. Just give it.
All right. So Geoff, we're just walking through the other side of the workshop, let's call it, and we've come across your photo wall here, and there's some amazing histories and stories to tell there. We've got, there's Shane Murphy in the Sander 96, of course, and that's you and Shane there at Ellenbrook. Is that Ellenbrook there?
No, I think it's Geraldton.
Geraldton Speedway, is it?
Geraldton or Northern.
Yeah, and there's Ron Cricket in the bottom, Ryan Farrell.
Jack Hottenschild.
Jack Hottenschild, is it?
Yeah, in the 31.
The 31 is Jack Hottenschild?
He was about, I don't know, 18 or 17 or something like that.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Was it really? And there's more Elf. And there's Elf in the old school car, which you restored.
Yeah.
Mark Wells, of course, there. There's Troy Wilson in one of my cars. That's one you built for me. You ripped that in half a few times, didn't you? And then we've got Sharon Marriott down the bottom.
Yeah.
Sammy in the Channel Lot 1. Terry Cuts again.
Warren Eakins.
Warren Eakins in the number 1 midget. Who else you got there?
Got David Element.
David Element, yes.
You've got a couple of Trevor Harding.
Yes.
Australian champion. You've got Ryan Farrell down the bottom in a coil car. You've got Matt Brown. You've got Trevor again. You've got
Kendrick team. Yeah. So we're in the workshop side now, Geoff, of the shop, and this is where all the that's Daniel banging and crashing the door. Yeah. Oh no, it's Dean. It's Dean Giddosh, Geoff's stepson. So this is
it's a new wingless car.
It's a new wingless car that Geoff's building. Geoff's fine.
For Chad Pittard from Bunbury. Because he's such a big boy, the car's a bit taller than most of the cars, than the biggest cars you can buy normally. That was this one here. Over here is a J&J that we've changed into a coil car which can have an anti-roll bar or a sway bar on the back and on the front. And then we've got a couple of brand new triple X's here, which we've got to change the seat. The diff bars have been cut out of it, so we can get the actual seat so the guy can fit in the car better. There's nothing wrong with the triple X, so a good car, just the type of seat that the guy uses, it couldn't fit in where it needed to be. So as you can see, the owner's already cut the bar out to make sure the seat fits okay. So we have to bring the bar down, then we've got to relieve the bar a little bit for that. And over here we've got a Maxim that belongs to a guy which is making into wingless, so it's got to have the side gravel bars put on it. It's got to have the top bars put up, their head intrusion, the H bars on the top of it as well. So that's this week's work. We do, you know, obviously we repair cars, we obviously still build a few new ones, not as many as what we used to, and we do the shock absorbers a fair amount. So, you know, it's just whatever it is. And the COVID thing, and of course obviously a lot of people aren't racing at the present moment, so there's more than likely a bit more of the repairs because they want to get things a little bit better than what they've done before.
So Geoff, you know, you've been in this sport forever, right? So do you still get the same buzz out of it? I know I'll refine my own question, is that you're still a big help to us up at the Winter Sprint Car Series, and you still enjoy coming up and passing on your knowledge to people up there. Do you still get the same enjoyment out of it after 50 or 60 years?
Well, I think where I got my most enjoyment is designing something, starting out with a straight piece of tubing and bending that and then welding it together and then putting it together, then going out and racing it and winning it. There's nothing better than that. And then if you can do that with your own family, that even makes it even better again. You know, so I guess that's the part I enjoy the most. I mean, you know, repairing someone's car is no different than it's a job. So yeah, you still do it and you do it to the best that you can. And because you have a fair bit of experience, hopefully you can do it better than a lot of the other people. And the shock absorbers, it's just like, you know, setups and running cars. There's so much to learn and there's no complete answer. And to every answer, there's two answers.
Yes.
So, you know, and it's, no, it's a great thing. And I've been lucky enough to race with some very, very good drivers. Lucky enough to meet people like Swindell and Wolfgang and Kinzers and Trossel. Those people helped me and those people still continue to help me, the ones that are still alive. So I think, why shouldn't I pass on what I've got? So, you know, wherever I am, whether it's on the phone or whatever, I'm only too happy to help whoever I can help. If they don't talk to me, I can't help them. If they talk to me, I can help them. But they have to realise that one of the most important things, they have to choose some people they wish to listen to and follow that. Yes. And if they don't get the answers, or what they've told to do doesn't work to what they think should work, go and talk to that person again and say, hey, you told me to do this. This is what I think happened. Maybe he didn't understand it. Maybe the person didn't pass it on, or maybe I didn't, because I'm thinking that I'm talking how I want to talk, which may be a higher level, so I've got to change and scale down what I'm going to say. So select some people who you think are knowledgeable, try and work with those people to go better.
So you said that you work with the Kinzers and Swindells and most drivers, and I know you worked heavily with Gary Rush and so on throughout the years. And where does my driver rate, Geoff?
Which driver? Troy Lawson?
Where does he rate, Geoff? I know we're having some fun now.
Yeah. No, well, he's got ability, and the biggest thing people have got to have, I guess, is even more than ability, you've got to have the finances to continue to do it, because it's not very cheap. And some of the reasons it's not very cheap is you're out there racing and it's very easy to step over the mark.
Yep.
And you may not step over the mark, someone else may step over the mark, and next thing your car's wrecked. So you've got to have good funds behind you, and a fair amount of that continuously, from month after month after month, and realising once upon a time we'd race in WA maybe somewhere between 30 or 40 times a year, if you're lucky, because there's so many places, your Ribble Lakes, your Ellenbrooks, your Northam, and now the poor guys have more than likely only got less than 20. So what would take 3 or 4 years to do now takes 10 years. And to sprint car race for 10 years, it's a lot of money and a lot of effort. And I think,
that's why I said in our initial video, in all seriousness, that I thought it was important that we get 50 races into Daniel as quick as we could.
Yeah, well,
no matter what the engine size, 410 or 360.
It's laps, and it's different racetracks rather than not the exact thing. So Daniel's got the ability to do it. All he needs to do now is to be able to do it often enough. It's no different than what Kyle Larson said the other day. I'm driving really good now because I'm concentrating on my driving. So, and he's concentrating on his sprint car driving. He's not trying to share it between 101 other things. Now, if Daniel did nothing but sprint car drive, he could do it better than sprint car driving and working for a job. But
Of course.
in our country, we have to have a job. And then we can go drive.
Isn't it?
So,
Yes.
yeah, and it's like everything else in life. If the things all fall the right way, all going well, he'll be able to sprint car race for a long time. But it's got to all happen. Some people things happen easily, other people it's harder. It doesn't happen. So it's just a matter of being dedicated and determined. And often you may not have the ability, and I think Daniel's definitely got the ability. But to me, it's the dedication and the determination of wanting to win and wanting to learn about it and wanting to get the job and wanting to race.
All right, thanks for your time, Geoff, and very knowledgeable insight. It's just a little something from me and Peter for all your help, just a little trophy for you to put on your cabinet. So, yeah,
Well, thanks very much.
for your
Yeah,
help.
and as I say, I'm here to help whoever I can help. If they don't ask, I can't help. If they ask, well, we're only too happy, like most people, only too happy to pass on the knowledge they've got.
All right, thanks for watching, guys. That's all for episode 3, and we'll see you for the next episode, or we'll catch you at Ellenbrook next weekend.